Welcome to the For the Love of the Game podcast with your host, Jefferson Belfort, Brian Hernandez, and our special guest, Erich Richter. How you guys doing today?
Richter, go
Happy to
first,
be here,
please.
baby.
I'm very excited for this episode. You know, we got our boy Richter here. We've been friends for so long and everything. And for the listeners, Richter actually works at the New York Post and everything. So, we actually got like a pretty cool guy here. I want to link to a lot of your stuff at the end, like some of your articles, whatever. But for me, I will say it's a pretty sad day of the Knicks. We got the Summer League Championship. We made it there and we lose. But still excited for this episode. Richter, yeah, again, very happy to have you here. Uh Anything you want to do for an introduction, please?
Appreciate being here. Let's talk some hoops, man. Got a lot of hoops combos to have, and our group chat's usually blowing up. So I'm finally glad that we're able to do this.
Yeah, it's a long time coming.
Yeah, definitely a lot of, I guess the best word would be heated conversations. So it's good to finally put them down.
We can talk it out.
Exactly. All right. So the topics we're going to be hitting today, stop me if you heard this before, but the Katie and Kyrie saga, the Andre Ayton situation, and the Donovan Mitchell trade rumors. And we'll finish it up with a weekly roundup. Are you guys ready?
Yeah, man, let's do it.
Perfect. So now we are sitting on day 17 of the KD trade watch. Guys, how do you feel about this? There you start first
Yeah.
about where you stand about the state of the Nets.
I wrote an article last week. I think that the Nets are running it back. I think they're gonna test. They're just gonna say, Kyrie, if you don't want to show up, don't show up. We're playing it out because even KD's gonna look and be like, all right, these are the 5 teams that are interested in me. This is what they would have to give up to get me. Is it better than where I'm at right now? The answer is going to be obviously not. If the Suns can't trade Ayton anymore, and we're going to talk about that, but the Suns can't trade Ayton anymore. I mean, the only package, in my opinion, the only package that makes sense, and I don't know if the other team would do it, but it would be the Pelicans trade Brandon Ingram, Herb Jones, some picks for Kevin Durant. That's the only thing that makes sense. If that happened, if I were the Nets, I'd probably do it. And if I'm KD, I could look at that Pelicans roster. I got McCollum, I got Zion, got himself. I mean, it's another. I mean, you're linking yourself to another guy who's never available. So even then, I still don't know if that's good enough for Kevin Durant. Probably stick where I'm at. I don't know. I heard that Ben Simmons and Kevin Durant got dinner together in Portland today at the Summer League.
I
I could jump in there.
Go ahead.
It has been debunked. It was actually either Mike Williams, not Mike Williams, Mike James,
Oh yes.
or it was Corey Joseph. That's what the belief
Not Ben.
is. From what it wasn't Ben Simmons.
not even close.
I
to
don't
the
know
same
how you
height.
Not even
confuse.
close.
Yeah.
That's a point guard. Ben Simmons is 6'10".
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Well,
understand that one.
Either way, I think the Nets run it back. If Kyrie doesn't play this year, he's not getting a contract from anybody. I made that very clear. No, like even the Lakers probably aren't giving him a contract. Like not a max. If he wants a max deal, he's 29. He's gonna be 30, I think, when the season starts. He's gonna be 30 when the season starts. If he wants to get paid $50 million in his age 35 season, he's gonna play this year. If he doesn't play this year, that's it. Post. No one's paying him. So Brian, I don't know what you think on that, but that's kind of where I'm at. I think the Nets run it back. I wrote an article. I bet on the Nets to win the finals this year.
I like
So,
that.
I'm
I
here.
like.
Go, bro.
I've been pretty consistent this entire time. I think this Nets roster when healthy and everything, is one of the best in the NBA. I think talent wise, I think it's one of the best. We have to see how, especially like, is how like Ben Simmons fits and everything, because uh, we'll see how that. I think it's a pretty seamless fit and all that, but especially with his defense and everything. But I think it's just easily one of the best. And I was even saying in our group chat and everything how much it shocked me when we had the reports that Kevin Durant was one of the guys. I was asking out. Like Kyrie, I guess I understand, but Kevin Durant, one of the guys, like I think that's pretty mind blowing. I think it's at this point exactly what you said, Richter. Of I think the only option is just to run it back. Like these guys are on the contract, make them play. Maybe I hope we don't see a James Harden situation where these guys make it ugly and everything. And who knows? But it's kind of crazy. You have, or at least they had James Harden at some point. They have Ben Simmons right now, who decided to sit out the whole entire season. You have Kyrie and now Katie both wanting out. Like it's so messy. But I think, especially with even some of the signings that they have, that they made this offseason and trading for Royce O'Neal, like I just think it's a good team, and I think it's a good team to run it back. It just having Kevin Durant alone is like you're in contention for winning a championship. It's a no brainer. We'll see what happens, Jeff. I'm actually pretty curious of. I like the idea that Richter you brought up of the Pelicans and everything. How do you feel about that offer as a Nets fan?
Oh, and that's actually one of the offers I've seen that I actually think would make the most sense of like a return um, where it works, right? But the biggest issue comes is I think that Brandon Ingram is another one of the individuals that fall on that list where Ben Simmons has to be gone, you know? And just I can't get it in my mind that it would make sense where it makes sense in a world where you have those three guys that you never try at once, and that's what's always been my biggest issue with like KD asking for the trade, Kyrie supposedly wanting out at that time, or not necessarily wanting out, but playing his cards to see if he'll get the money that he wants, right? Was that you're this close to having a trio that is, if they're performing at a top level, they are better than a lot of the league. So it it is a good trade proposal in my mind. It does give the Nets a good way to hit the reset button and develop for the future. But it goes into my next question I would have for you, Richter, is that do you trust in making that type of trade that this or the part of the front office currently that would be handling those decisions would make the right decisions with these picks, with the players that they're bringing back? Like there's a growing distrust in me in Sean Marks and ownership and Joe Tsai. And obviously I've been vocal about how much I'm not a big fan of the coaching
Yeah, he
either.
sucks. But he
So
just got he's got an extension.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. It is what it is. Marks is there. Cy likes him. Doesn't matter. I thought at one point my thought was Kevin Durant will come back if Sean Marks gets fired. I thought it'd be like one of those things, be like kind of like this is what happened with Tom Brady, right? Tom Brady was like, I'm retired. And then he was like, all right, I'm unretiring, but then Bruce Arians randomly gets let go. I wonder why. Tom Brady didn't want him there. Right? So that was my thought, was Kevin Durant was going to do that. But apparently it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. I think the Nets roster is pretty loaded right now. Cam Thomas is going to take another year forward. Royce O'Neal's a good defender. I mean, they have a good roster. So can I throw another trade offer at you guys?
Yeah, please.
How do you feel about Cavs? Garland and picks, Mobley straight up, make contract work. Any of those happening? If you're who's saying no? Who's hanging up faster?
I think the Cavs.
The Cavs say no is the
Both?
problem, and
Both on Garland?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
I don't think it's because of. I don't think it's hard to assess Kevin Durant properly, right? Because you know that easily he's if not one, he's 1B and the best players in the league right now. But when weighing out all of the situations that are present as you're taking on a guy that's 34, that is injury prone, and it's increasingly showing each and every year is that he may not necessarily have that leadership role like set in stone as who he is as a player, which is there's nothing wrong with that in my mind, but you want him to head a young team. I don't know if they want to take that chance, you know? And it looks like that's where a lot of these teams that are considering him or want to bring him in is like, hey, it's only the teams that are the most interested in him are willing to give everything for him this point, not everything, but willing to have those conversations with them. The constant with them is that they have an established culture. You hear the Warriors coming back up. You hear the Suns they're coming into a fold of having their own culture. They have Chris Paul, who's an actual leader. You have the Raptors, who has a culture that predates all of the players that they have on their current roster, right? And then you have the Heat also. Like those are four teams that you're not going to change how they play. So necessarily, it makes sense if you get a guy like Kevin Durant that is okay and has shown that he can conform with going into a new culture, you know. And
Yeah.
I don't know how that vibes with like a place like Cleveland.
Seems like he's just going to come back. I mean, really the only chance is maybe Kyrie Irving gets bought out and goes to the Lakers. But, I mean, that would be if Kyrie doesn't even show up. But he has to show up. So, I don't know. I mean, how are you feeling about Kyrie these days, Brian? You done with him?
No, I'm still on the Kyrie train. I understand he's very like he's very polarizing.
He's the worst. No, he's the worst.
So this is why I love having you here.
6 years. We've done this for 6 years with him.
Yeah.
He won the title and asked out immediately.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything too wrong with that. I don't hate that.
They just won the title.
Yeah, he wants to do his own thing now. So like that's where I don't
You have LeBron. Pippen didn't want to do his own thing until Jordan retired.
well, yeah.
Come on. And now he's gonna go back to LeBron.
I don't want to go off on a tangent. I don't want to go off on a tangent, but like Pippen, even Pippen actually added his own 2 cents to this whole conversation on the Kevin Durant side of it, and saying how much he loves the aspect that Kevin Durant has the ability to choose his own fate and decide to leave a team high and dry, you know. But at the same time, Pippen was given a chance. You know what I mean? He was given a chance with MJ leaving to see that. And then I guess that's what helped him with conforming to the idea. Yeah, I might not be that guy, you know, but Kyrie wanted to figure that out. And he's in a league at the time in the league where players have a larger voice on deciding where they're going to go and their futures. Yes, there's pros and cons to it. Obviously, Kyrie might be laying on the con side of that, and definitely the Nets are feeling what that feels like to see that now. But I don't fault him for deciding to leave Cleveland when he did. I think
that was crazy. He also didn't play before LeBron got there. Remember that. He also barely was playing then.
So he was injured a lot then.
He really played 3 years in his career.
Really? Yeah, I mean, but at the end of the day, and even when he played in college and everything, he didn't play a lot. He didn't play a lot. But
he was still the number 1 pick. So yeah. Kyrie's just a mess. Like I'm off the Kyrie train. I was all on it. I was all on it. I was ready to go with this Nets team. Kyrie didn't play at Duke. I think he won Rookie of the Year with Cleveland. And then he played that year. He got injured in the playoffs both years, the first 2 years when LeBron was there, and then he stayed healthy for the Cleveland series, and he was nasty in that Cleveland Warriors series when they came back 3-1. He was nasty. We saw what he was. He's a really good player. Quit on Boston, goes to Brooklyn, quits on the bubble year. Year after, and then he quit the first year because KD wasn't there. So he didn't play the last 30 games. Like, well, KD's not here, so I'm just going to wait for next year. I'm going to save my legs for next year. So, oh, okay, yeah, no, all good, Kyrie. Didn't want to play in the bubble. And then he gets injured again last year. Yeah, like, he just doesn't play. I mean, he just doesn't play. Straight up. Like, and even, like, Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's played, like, 90-something games with the Nets. He's played, like, 90-something games. The Nets have committed over $300 million to that dude, who's had the foot injury that Yao Ming had, and he's had an Achilles injury. He's going into his 16th year, and the Nets are like, we are committing $300 and something million for the rest of your career if you want to be here. And now he asks for a trade. It's outrageous. They got to run it back. They have to run it back. If I were the Nets, I'd be like, fucking retire. Like, if you want to trade that bad, then don't play, and you'll be 40 by the time your contract's up.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll say
it does seem like the smart move, but please, Jeff.
I'm going to debunk a couple things that you said. So first, no, it's always so easy to get on the Kyrie this and that train about stuff. But let's be honest. Kyrie, before this season and that season that he got injured in 2019, consistently got close to around 60 games in his career. The lowest, actually, if you discount this season, because that's the outlier, right?
We can't I don't want to hear that.
But I mean, like, for the conversation, for the sake of conversation and talking about not a global pandemic that's deciding your fate, take into account every other year before that. Only season, the lowest games played for him for that first season with the Nets, where he only played 20. He got injured. I think he had a shoulder injury, and then he then wanted to come back for the bubble. His lowest games that he played in a season was in his rookie year, where he had around 51 games that he played in. Then from there, he was at 59, 71, 75, 53, 72, 60, 67. So it's not like he's never on the floor. I think that some of these numbers are actually better than, if we're going to be honest, than Kawhi Leonard, who was at a point in his career a guy that had a similar track of people asking, hey, this guy can't stay on the court. This guy doesn't want to be on the court. And people were questioning. I think we forget about that period of when people question if Kawhi Leonard actually even wants to be on the floor with his team, and he forced his way out of the Spurs. He did it in a way that was so quiet, which in turn has not affected his career long term because of how he did it. But Kyrie is anything but quiet. So I think that's where we see the issues and the differences between those two situations. Second thing I would say about the whole Kyrie.
Would you say that he is available, or more available than he is available, or more unavailable than he is available in his last 6?
Yes or no?
Yes or no?
I gave
unavailable 6 years.
Hold on. Let me just say something.
It's
because last week we did discuss Kyrie, and I gave a perfect analogy of Kyrie's like that guy, Microsoft Teams, where you could put your status and say if you're away, right? Kyrie is the guy that has his status set on away or inactive. So you just figure out when you shoot him a message if you're gonna know he's gonna be there. I'm not gonna go all the way to the level of saying bad employee, but I'm just going to say is that he is pretty misunderstood. He's a misunderstood player first, and he does have outrageous like things that he goes through. So
Misunderstood. All right, go to your second point. That's
So
ridiculous.
I'll jump on there. So I'm very into like I think Kyrie the player is worth all the trouble, but I actually will agree with Richter here. Of I do think he's just a bad employee. Of he's not the guy that you generally want on your team. It's just the reason why people put up with him is because of how good he really is.
Can be, but isn't. He
He
can play. And
well,
also,
can be. I think he is.
also, let's also talk about game 2, 3, and 4 in Boston. You guys want to talk about that?
Yeah, we can talk about that because
hard,
I
dude. You looked at
you
his
know
numbers?
I actually have something to
Disappeared.
rebuttal that with because this is where I voice again my frustrations with coaching and Steve Nash is that if you look at the season as a whole in 2021, they took a big emphasis on making, and it makes sense. Katie being the predominant like not ball handler, but he took predominantly most of the shots, right? Which makes sense. It's Kevin Durant, right? But when you run all of your sets through Kevin Durant, it makes it a lot harder to have a cohesive basketball team. And clearly you saw that in the Celtics, Celtics series. And you have a guy in Ime Udoka who just left the organization and knows that this is possibly he was in the coach's room. Let's put it as that. He was in the coach's room when he knew even before he was going to leave, that this was possibly going to be how Steve Nash wants to play it out. He wants to have everything go through Kevin Durant. So he game planned for that. Yes, Kyrie was minimized after game one, but it's not even by design. I think it happened. I think it's by fault. It's by the fault of how the game is being played for the Nets and choosing to essentially go from Kyrie now in this sense being the guy that you're going to go through is not necessarily the best way to win a series because Kyrie may not have put the points in the rest of the series that he did in that game one, but he was trying to do something, couldn't catch any fire. Whenever he did, it didn't make as much of a difference because you're missing the real reason or the real way how the Nets machine even goes, Kevin Durant, because the game plan to make sure, hey, we could care less if anybody else here can play. If we could stop Kevin Durant from being Kevin Durant for this stretch of games, it's going to look a lot easier for us to win this series. And then another thing too is, and this is where I say the Nets still have not addressed this, is the Nets have a size problem compared to the rest of the league. Is the Nets roll a lot of lineups where they have guys that are averaging less than 6'5" on the court, and there's about 3 of them on the court, and you go against a Celtics team that is relatively big compared to the Nets, where you have Marcus Smart, I believe, is sitting at 6'5", who can easily handle Kyrie on the defensive side by himself because he's just going to bully him up, and it's the playoffs. You're not going to get the calls you're going to get in the regular season. So I felt like it was a match made in it was a nightmare matchup for the Nets having to go through the Celtics in that first round.
Jeff, all I hear is excuses. That nothing is Kyrie's fault. It's Steve Nash's fault. It was a bad matchup, and it was a bad matchup. I don't care. Don't care. Put up 60 on the Magic on 9 days rest. Don't care. You shot 30% in game 2, 3, and 4.
There's no excuse for that. There's literally he just didn't show up those games. But that's what I'm trying to say.
He doesn't play well. He might be he might not be down. His body might like go off the hill here because he doesn't care about basketball.
I don't know about all of that because he clearly, and it goes to show when you take the body of work between him and James Harden, who was on the same team. Obviously, James Harden's coming rehabbing off of an injury as well, but we saw at the beginning of the season what James Harden looked like, and we saw him give up on the court. He literally showed you in that Pistons game where he just walked to a ball. So that's where I'm trying to say is that Kyrie is always ready because he is actually always working on his body. He's always working on his game. That is a guy, even if he says he is more than just a basketball player, that is clearly still a guy that is, his head is still in basketball. And he knows that this is how I make most of my money. You know, James Harden, the other side of that, is a guy that's, in my mind, physically regressing. And because of that, his game is hurting because of that. And then when he's done, he's done. He shows you that he's done. He lets everyone know, I'm done with this situation, and you're going to make a decision right now. He did it in Houston, and he did it when he was in his last days with the Nets. He doesn't do that. That's where I have more respect for him on that.
I got zero respect for the guy. He is a quitter, and he has wasted most of his career.
So I actually wanted to clarify on something you said earlier, where you said if Kyrie doesn't play this season, he's not going to get a next contract. Do you mean a next contract in the sense of like a lot of money, a big money contract, or just in general?
I mean, I guess it'll depend who has cap space, but if no one has cap space like they did this year, like the Lakers will have cap space.
Yeah.
The Lakers are not giving him a 5-year deal. Honestly, in an ideal world, the maximum contract that Kyrie Irving is getting, I'll give him a max for 2 years. That's it. He's a year-to-year player for the rest of his career. If you trust this guy with tens of millions of dollars over guaranteed for 5 years, you just don't understand how this guy has been working for the past half of a decade. We've just watched this guy quit on contenders. It's not like oh, well, hey, like this team's awful. It's not like LeBron's like, okay, 2008, yo, guys, this is ridiculous. We got Larry Hughes here. Like, Drew Silgauskas is our second best player. Okay, it's not like that. I just won the title with LeBron, and I quit. I go to Boston, and these guys are, I don't know, too young. I didn't like the city of Boston. Boston's beautiful. I don't like the city of Boston. All right, fine. I'll give you both of those. I'll give you both of those if you want it. If you really want to, well, he wanted to be like Kobe Bryant. He wanted to do his own thing. Boston is racist, I think he said. Whatever. That's okay, fine. I'll give you those two. Third one, well, Brooklyn, yeah, I don't really want to get the COVID vaccine, and I didn't really like the bubble, and I don't really want to play. So, but all right, at a certain point, you're just going to make something up at some point. So I'm out on Kyrie, and I think anybody that's in on Kyrie, I'm not in on you.
Well, that's funny. But I will add to that is I'm sure you have not seen the latest episode of the Shop by LeBron James because he mentioned
what did he say?
He mentioned Boston as well and confirmed quite what Kyrie was saying as well.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all.
It's not just them. It's been something that's been said
there's a lot
for
of
a while now.
And there's a lot of that.
Utah's another one.
I was just about to say Utah.
You've heard.
Indiana's really bad. Boston's definitely not great either. Boston needs to change their culture a little bit because, and I think Boston knows that. I think that's why they hired Udoka, who also happens to be an amazing coach. But they needed not a white coach.
Yeah,
someone that wasn't white. Like this is it's ridiculous.
Well, they had Doc Rivers, but that's what I don't think. There's changing that is what I would say. I know it sounds wild to say it like that.
I go there all the time, and the people there, they're all hammered like all the time. Like it's an interesting area. It's an interesting area, but Yeah, that's where I'm at on Kyrie. I don't know. I don't know what to do with Kevin Durant either. Like, you can't trade him to Phoenix now because the Ayton thing. I wouldn't have done it anyway. Honestly, I wouldn't have taken Ayton anyway.
Yeah, I wanted to
Wouldn't
ask
either.
in the sense of like that package that was being brought up of Ayton. I know there was a report to Mikal Bridges not even being offered, but if he was in the offer with like Cam Johnson and all that and the picks, you would not do that at all.
No, I want the Pelicans trade with the Lakers picks. That's what I want. I wanted Zion instead of Ingram personally. If I was Brooklyn, go Zion, get the picks, and get the Lakers picks. I want the Lakers picks. I want the Lakers picks. The Lakers picks
Yeah.
are unprotected and they are going to be horrible.
Yeah,
From
and then
here on, after even this year, they might be bad. But after this year, and if they get Kyrie this year, then okay, then they're title contenders. But then next year, and I gotta just say, I did 2K franchise, and I put Kyrie on the Lakers. This coming season, I put Kyrie on the Lakers. I gave Kyrie a full max 5-year deal. Signed it day of. Yeah, he signed it immediately. And then I have LeBron and AD, and they cannot field a roster. Everyone else is for the minimum. I have a mid-level exception that I split between Cody Martin, the backup 2 guard for
is that a Charlotte or Miami? They're the Twins. I don't know which one to switch.
Miami. It's Miami. The Miami backup 2, and Gary Clark, who's like a stretch 4. That's it. No. Sorry, Boogie Cousins. I got Kyrie, LeBron, Boogie Cousins. Like, they can't fill the roster. So, like, point is, like, Austin Rivers is going to be starting at the 2 if they get Kyrie.
Austin Reeves.
I've been there. Austin Rivers. Austin Reeves is starting at the 2. Like, that's just what it is. So, I guess the trade for the Suns. I'm actually surprised that the Suns matched the offer. Right? Sarver is the cheapest owner. I was actually having a conversation with somebody at the office, and they were like, I think the Suns will match that, and I was like, I don't know. I was like, Sarver's the one who didn't pay Joe Johnson, didn't pay Amari Stoudemire. Like, I don't know. Like, he has been anti. Like when they're like one guy away, he's the guy who doesn't give them that guy. Like, if the Suns had kept Joe Johnson, they probably win a title or 2.
Yeah, it's
I was surprised.
I think it's even though I agree with the Sarver thing. I believe in what's their GM I forget
James Jones.
Yeah, James Jones. He's a very good GM. And then too, like, I think everyone just kind of, you have to. It doesn't matter like if you're going to you're the luxury tax and everything. I understand they're kind of screwed there. They're going to be paying a lot of money, but you have to match that. I mean, which is a good transition for our conversation with Deandre Ayton. So for the listeners and everything, we got the report over the last couple of days that Indiana offered Deandre Ayton. What is it? I have the exact
4 years, $133 million.
Yes. Yeah, 4 years, $133 million. It was very interesting to see the reporting that was first coming out because it was like, oh, they have X amount of time to actually facilitate a sign and trade to see what was going to happen there. Are they even going to match it? All this drama. But as soon as DeAndre Ayton even signed it, apparently the reporting comes out immediately that the Suns actually match it, which, as we've been talking about, takes them out of the Kevin Durant conversation. I guess
now.
Yeah, like for now until January or whatever. Jeff, what do you think about the whole DeAndre Ayton situation?
Well, it just piggybacking off of what Richter was saying is he I didn't expect them to match it based off of what we were hearing, the reports that were coming out to kind of incriminate his personality to sully the guy on his way out. It felt like those type of reports we were starting to see was coming out, and we were going to then in turn see him move on and then hear like a big bombshell come out after that, right? But we were also hearing a few days in advance that Pacers were expecting to do this. So they must have been sitting around thinking about, like, in the long term, he's going to be a piece that can be traded, in my mind, is what they were thinking. And if January comes around and no resolution has been made with the Kevin Durant situation, and Kevin Durant decides to make it hard for the Nets and say like, "Hey, I'm just going to not locked in the way you need me to be locked in," and um, they go out and they could still move that piece in DeAndre Ayton in January and potentially add him into that trade or move him in a three-way trade and make him available. So like that's where I think it was Zach Lowe that was speaking on it. That was saying that he thinks that it's not over. It's just over for right now.
Right.
But I think that it was a smart idea to do it because then you don't have that asset to potentially move in a trade.
I hear that. I don't. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't know. I don't think the Suns are going anywhere next year. I was pretty heavily on. I'm wearing my Luka jersey. Like I bought this. That's when I bought this jersey.
When do you buy
Right
it?
after Game 7. Right after Game 7, I was at a bar and there was a bunch of like people there from Phoenix, like literally from Phoenix, like at the bar, and I was insufferable the whole night. Like this, like Luka went down, blew past. I think. He made first play, pick and roll, switch on to Chris Paul, blow by Chris Paul. Paul jumps, little fadeaway, like kind of like fadeaway jump layup, easy. And I was like, oh, and I screamed, oh, it's gonna be one of those nights, huh? It wasn't even one of those nights. Like it wasn't even competitive. So the Suns can go to hell. They're done. They're coast. The Clippers are going to win the finals, probably would be my guess. They're pretty low.
You just said the Nets.
Lakers get Kyrie.
Okay.
What was that?
I thought you just said the
He
Nets.
said he bet on the Nets.
Oh, I bet on the Nets. Different.
Okay. But
So,
you're okay.
If I were to make
Okay.
a finals pick right now, I'd say the Clippers. But I'm not betting the Clippers because they're the favorite. They're one of the favorites.
All right.
The Nets were 30-1 to win the finals last week, down to 20-1 now. I'm fucking smart. So that's where we're at.
Do you think the Suns have any moves in them right now? Because like this entire offseason has been the Kevin Durant stuff. So all the other free agents kind of disappeared. And we have some like veteran centers on there, some veterans and all that. Do you think they have any more moves?
Could they screw it? Could I say screw it? Go get Mitchell after the All-Star break for Ayton? Because like I was talking about this with my brother. The All-Star game's in Utah.
Yes, it is.
You can't not have Mitchell if the All-Star game's going to be in Utah. Like you could, if you're going to have Mitchell, like you got to have him through the All-Star break. Like, see, I'm pretty sure like what was the All-Star game in Denver when Melo was asking for a trade? Someone was hosting. Maybe it was D Wade when LeBron was a free agent and D Wade was hosting or something. It was something like that. But basically, the best player always hosts. So like, you gotta hold on to Mitchell. You have to hold on to Mitchell. At least that would be my guess. I don't know what's a pattern. I mean, not to transition or anything, but I mean, what do you guys think about this Mitchell thing?
Ooh, so I think with Donovan Mitchell. So I actually think I understand the whole All-Star game stuff. I kind of think you got to get rid of him before the season starts.
Really?
I think that there's even reporting of Ian Begley. He didn't exactly say that the Jazz are trying to move him before the season starts, but it was kind of like insinuated and everything. But it just kind of gets messy, and then it also just confuses of what they're trying to do. We see all the Brian Windhorst stuff of like they're making all these moves, yeah, the memes and everything. Like they're obviously blowing it up, and they're obviously they have all these other guys. I'm sure they're gonna trade Patrick Beverly and all this stuff. You have to. I think you kind of have to move them, and I don't think that Donovan Mitchell is gonna ever officially request a trade, but it's just messy in the sense of like, imagine what that locker room is, where most of these guys aren't going to be here in maybe in a couple weeks or whatever, like by when training camp starts. By the trade deadline, this team's going to be completely different. Like you have a brand new coach. You just brought in this brand new coach, and now you're giving him this terrible situation. I don't think Utah necessarily wants to be in there. I do think that they are going to give the facade that they can and are willing to do that. But I really don't think that's the case. I think you have to move. Jeff, do you have anything?
No, I think he does get moved as well. It's I think you gotta strike the iron while it's hot with a situation like this, because there's a difference between the Kevin Durant situation and this situation. And the one thing is, one man has made it vocal that they want to be out, and that's why the floods have been pouring in. Where there's the other guy that hasn't made it that vocal, so there's always like air of like imagination. This could be just rumblings that we're hearing. So there's not as aggressive a pull, because some people could believe that they're not really truly shopping him, which means that they might get a more favorable trade. In the case with Kevin Durant, when you know that the guy is saying he wants out, kind of like the other side is always thinking, I'm going to not give you everything you want because this guy wants to go out and he's put me on their list. So, yeah, you're either going to decide not to do it and then face the consequences of that, or you're going to give me this guy and I'm going to give you a semblance of something that's all right, And we haven't got to that point with Kevin Durant, but that's why I think it's good for the Jazz right now to try to actualize it before it gets to that point where Donovan Mitchell is vocal about it, because then that's when you're kind of strong-armed. We saw it with James Harden. At first he did not say anything. He never said anything publicly, actually, but the reporting started to come out that that he's working. It started to get ugly. Then training camp came. He started to do whatever he wanted and just make it a bad situation, to a point where reporting started saying that he was working with, I think it's Tillman is their owner, or Tillman was working with him to get a trade either to the Sixers or get him to the Nets. And Tillman, obviously not a fan of Morey was not going to move him there, it seemed like, and then he moved him to the Nets. But it was one of the teams on his list. I think with having, and he just left the Celtics. I just drawing a blank. Danny Ainge being there, being a guy that knows how to reconstruct the team, having him in the fold with this decision making. I think they sit down with Donovan Mitchell and let him know that, hey, we are heading towards a rebuild. You clearly could see that with the decision to move on with Gobert. We could double this down and you could stay here and you could be a Utah Jazz for life, or we can try to move you to somewhere that is favorable to you before reports go crazy and then we hear that you're demanding a certain place and then we have no leverage and we can't pull what we need. So I think the time is now, if anything.
Interesting. All right. Well, I guess one more thing on the Mitchell thing. Like, what is the maximum you're willing to pay? The maximum you're willing to pay if you're the Knicks, and then Brian, I'll give you Knicks, and then I don't know, Jeff. Would you take Kevin Durant or take Mitchell for Durant?
Is
Mitchell.
Donovan
three-way deal. Mitchell goes to the Nets. Kevin Durant goes to I don't know where's he going.
Miami,
Throw him in
Utah.
Utah.
I don't know. You'd have to go somewhere. Golden State. I don't know. What's the max you're willing to pay with Mitchell, Brian?
So
As a diehard Knicks fan, one of the biggest Knicks fans that I know.
yeah, it's.
And you watch some.
I'd go pretty hard with it. So not as hard. No, so not as hard as a lot of what Utah's asking for, or at least the reports that they're asking for. I'm not doing any of that. Which some of the reports were like, you got. At least the first one I saw was like 7 first-round picks. You got, RJ in there. You got all this other stuff. Another report I saw was like Mitchell Robinson, before Mitchell Robinson signed his contract. Mitchell Robinson, RJ, quickly, all these guys, 3 first-round picks. Like, not doing any of that. What I'm doing in this situation is like, I'm giving you 6 picks. I may even go 7 picks at max, which they have 8 tradable first-round picks and everything. 3 of them are like super protected and all that stuff. But I'm giving you more picks to kind of keep more of the younger players. Like I'm not giving
how many picks?
I'm giving 7? I'd say my offer is I'm gonna do 6 in 1 swap. I'll do 6 in 1 swap, and I'll throw like it is a lot, and I'll throw. I'm not giving you. If I'm giving you that many picks, I'm not giving you RJ. Of course, I'm not giving
RJ back regardless.
Yeah, regardless. And there's reports already that like they don't really even want RJ because RJ is going to be due to a max extension and all that other stuff, and they don't really want to pay him all that and all that. Which
I'll give him the max extension.
You give him the max? I don't even know if the Knicks should do that at the end of the day because I'm so
He's gonna get better.
He's gonna get. That's the thing. It's a similar situation. I hear a lot to the Kemba Walker situation. When Kemba Walker was first a rookie, he wasn't efficient at all. He was pretty terrible. But you are betting that this guy, the quality of this guy, is good enough, and he's gonna work hard to become a better player. And then he blows up to be really good. I think RJ is kind of in a similar position, even though I'm always so wary with RJ of. When I look at a prospect or even a player, I want them to have a really good, I'm losing the word I'm thinking of, but just like something that stands out from everybody else. Like, what's your special talent that you have? RJ, at the end of the day, is kind of average at everything. Like, he's the super. He's not
better at shooting. If he gets better at shooting, then he becomes above average at everything.
So that's the thing.
Shooting will open up his whole game.
If you really look at least to me, like RJ's ceiling of like just without having elite athleticism, like he's not a bad athlete. It's just he doesn't have a super quick first step. He's not super bouncy or anything like that. His ceiling is really like it's really just like the Jimmy Butler kind of situation. So it's kind of interesting. Like I don't know if he ever gets as good as like a Jimmy Butler, but like that's where I kind of see him. But at the end of the day, I don't think you traded him or anything.
Definitely not.
I don't even know if I would even want to trade Quickly and Obi, but like I'd give you like
one of the two,
maybe one of the two, and I give you Grimes and those 6 first round picks, and that's about it. And like
unprotected,
I'd give the unprotected. To be honest, I wouldn't care.
I would probably do that if I was Utah. That's too much.
I think that's the most I'm willing to go. Is that my first offer that I'm giving you? No, but like that's first the most.
All right, 10.
yeah.
Give me your draft for the next decade.
But that's the thing of like, I said it in our group chat before of the Knicks situation is they're not going to tank, and that's just 100% what it is. Which
likes his job.
I hate that. I mean, yes, I definitely agree. It's that guy is definitely next level. You see why and that's the thing too. Another reason why for Utah to want to actually trade Mitchell before training camp, so you can actually enter the tank race and everything. But yeah, like the Knicks situation, I'd trade the picks even without protections and everything, just because they're not going to tank. They're always going to try to be good. If you have Donovan Mitchell, you're not going to be the worst team, and you have all these other guys. You're not going to be the worst team. Are you going to be the best? No. I don't even think this is even like a championship caliber team or anything like that. I said before, I think second round exit is their ceiling. But at the end of the day, I'd still do it. And it just gets you closer. This team kind of wants to build through free agency trades, not necessarily the draft. So that's the most. I don't mind too much about the picks.
I was gonna say like they should go to like the Hornets and go and be like 4 unprotected picks, maybe a swap or 2, and then like that's kind of it. Because like the Hornets are going to be awful.
With
Like
Jordan as the owner.
Jordan's the owner. They've never been good. Like high picks like that for bat. You
Those are
want
the best.
picks from a team that you know is going to suck. That's why with the Nets, and I was saying that to Jeff, I was like, you want the Lakers picks.
Yeah.
If you're trading with the Pelicans, I want all the Lakers picks. That's it. So I don't know, Jeff. Do you have any dark horses for Donovan or?
I like that one. I do like Hornets, but I like it on the Hornets side, even though you say
I don't know why they
would
would
be bad.
Just...
But you pair Donovan Mitchell with LaMelo, I think that's a good backcourt to start off. I don't know if it helps with constructing a team, but pretty good 2K team. I'll put it as that. I think, and it's not even as big of a. Well, actually, I think if this team, and you're actually wearing their shirt today, so I'll go in and say this. But if the Magics want to go out there and finally do a big bold move, I think they try to get into this and see what they could give up as potential pieces to Utah to pair together him and Luka, because I think that's the perfect situation where it fits the mold of what a typical Danny Ainge trade would look like. You're sending back some role players. He really doesn't value those guys because they're not going to be there long. Have them get off the books sooner rather than later, right? And then get as much picks as possible, right? He's not really looking to get the craziest talent out of the trade history we've seen, but he's going to take your picks, and he's probably going to push those picks out. Let's be honest. He's going to make sure that it's not during Luka's pretty young, but he's going to make it. He's going to ask for some unprotected picks, just like you would say about the Knicks. But I think the reason why you're okay with that, with the unprotected picks as well, in any situation where you trade for Donovan Mitchell, is that you understand that Donovan Mitchell is 26. You understand that you're trading, even though you're trading your future, you're trading for someone that is the future. He's not old. Like that's why it's always asinine to me that there's players like, I keep on saying this name, but like a guy like James Harden being traded for 5 picks doesn't make as much sense because you're not trading for a future. Yeah. You're trading for a run right now. And if it doesn't go right, exactly. You see what's happening right now. So same, and I guess that ties into the Kevin Durant thing, I guess, this is why now bringing Donovan Mitchell into, you mentioned like if he was to come to the Nets, that is probably the most complicated trade to ever happen, because now we're thinking about this new CBA rule that just sounds like it was made to mess with the Nets. Like it really sounds like that, is that you can't have 2 guys that sign on a rookie extension to be on one team that you didn't draft. So I don't know who thought of that.
I don't even know what that rule, all these rules, like, all right, well, they're protecting the small market team, whatever. I don't even see how this protects a small market team.
It does not at all.
Yeah, because if you got an unhappy guy, you're just kind of limiting their options of actually trades.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually screwing everybody.
Yeah, so it just seems like it's the created to mess with the Nets rule now, because it's definitely going to make the whole situation with trying to get a guy like that on your team a lot harder. In the case of the Nets, it's just too complicated. I don't know why you would go down that road to trying to figure this out. I can't off the top of my head formulate a way where we make all of that work because it has to be a three-way trade where someone's getting Ben Simmons now too, and you got to go from there.
It's so complicated. They should run it back, in my opinion. I mean, I just run it back.
They have to. There's no option.
I'd love to see Mitchell on the Knicks, though. That'd be pretty fun.
That's the thing.
Would be interesting.
It would be fun. Is it going to be the best team with the small backcourt? Exactly.
It doesn't need to be the best team.
That's what it is. Of like, even I watch a lot of like, oh no, I don't watch a lot of ESPN, but whenever there's a big like rumor or whatever, I check in to see what people have to say.
What Windy has to say,
Yeah, and literally everyone for some reason on ESPN is just straight up of like, is this good enough to win a championship? What about a championship? And it's like, no, it's not even. Yeah, it's not even. Why is that a conversation? It's not close at all.
Even if like you got like hot, like some teams just get like hot. Like the Mavericks got hot.
Yeah.
And they got to the Western Conference Finals, but they weren't the second best Western team. Like, I'll tell you right now, I still think the Clippers were the best Western Conference team. If they had beaten the Timberwolves in the play-in, I think they were winning the whole thing. And I stand by that. But like, even if the Knicks got hot, like I don't see them really beating anybody. Even like are you beating the Heat? No, like definitely not. And Go ahead, Jeff.
It's a building point. That's where
it's a building point. Maybe Barrett gets better, and then maybe Randall plays better because he's on a better team. And then you got Robinson, who's a legit center. So like that starting five isn't horrific.
We've left out the guy that they just brought in this offseason into the equation. Jalen Brunson plays a part into this. And then who says if in the next 2 years when a lucrative free agent is on the market, he doesn't decide, I want to pair with Donovan Mitchell. I will say this. The Nets are not getting players because the Nets are a destination where people want to go to. It's because they have the stars that people want to go to, right? That's why James Harden considers going to the Nets. Same way I think would happen if Donovan Mitchell is on the Knicks. Even if you have issues with the Knicks, seeing Donovan Mitchell there makes it a lot easier for you to say, you know what, I want to play with him. Let's go here. Let's try to see what we can do.
There was a report from Tim McMahon that said that Danny Ainge is not convinced that Donovan Mitchell is or can be the face of a franchise. Do you guys agree with that?
Does he need to be? I think that's more of a question. Does he really need to be? You've seen. Okay, I'm gonna be brutally hard right now with this one, but let's go back on 2008's Celtics, a team that he constructed. You see, Paul Pierce? Yes, he was the face of the franchise, but it was not because he was an amazing talent. He was. He had some good playoff runs before that in his early career, but beyond that, I didn't see him as exactly. I don't see him as a crazy face of the franchise type of guy. He just stuck it out with the Celtics, and it happened.
Top 20 guy. He was a solid top 20 guy.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which is kind of what Mitchell is.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think if you just look up, you do a quick experiment of like top 20 players in the NBA, he generally falls anywhere 19. like anywhere between 20 to 15. Like you can see him around there. So yeah, I mean, I would like to see the Knicks do it. If the Knicks don't do that, I don't think it's that bad. I kind of but that's the thing. Like they're waiting.
The Brunson signing is just like, I don't know. It's like you're looking to win now. Like,
well, the thing is, like, you got. I guess with Jalen Brunson, if you think about the whole situation, there's reporting that there's been talking about this. We saw that the Knicks front office went to that game with Dallas, the playoff game, and it's kind of funny of like now you see they were scouting for Jalen Brunson. Maybe they're scouting for both Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell. But I believe that when Jalen Brunson signed this contract, he has a good idea of, oh, they're talking about Donovan Mitchell, like getting Donovan Mitchell. Like if Jalen Brunson signs, there's a good chance he plays with Donovan Mitchell, and he's still signed regardless. So I think they're perfectly fine playing those two guys. But even regardless, like I kind of want to see Jalen Brunson be one of your 1A or your number one guy. Just see what he does, and like it'd be kind of fun. Jalen Brunson, he's he's always won at every level that he's been. He's always overlooked everywhere he's been. I just kind of want to see what he can do. Regardless, without Donovan Mitchell, this is maybe a 9th seed playing team. And with Donovan Mitchell, their ceiling is maybe
4 seed ceiling. What did I say? Maybe like 6 seed.
I say like 5th seed ceiling, and then I'd probably like see they're falling in like 6 or 7. We'll see how that actually turns out. I wanted to get your thoughts on a couple of other free agent moves that happened and all this stuff, because we haven't gotten a chance to talk about it. Richter, what do you think about the Timberwolves trading for Rudy Gobert?
I mean, they paid crazy price for that. Crazy price, screws the whole market. You know what was funny? I kind of wanted the Knicks to get Gobert, but not for that price.
Yeah.
Not for that. I was like, maybe I'll give you like a pick 2 maximum and heavily protected. Like, because you got to think about this as like teams that have a history of losing. The Timberwolves are a team that has a history of losing. Anthony Edwards is great. Anthony Edwards needs like 5 years to figure it out. Like, he's not going to go in next year and be like, all right, we're the 1 seed in the West. That's not happening. Like, they might make the playoffs next year. Well, now that they have Gobert,
that's strong.
Now that they have Gobert, they better make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Gobert said championship. Bonjour.
Oh, they're not winning the title. They're not even close to winning the title. They're not going to be a top 5 seed in the West. The West is brutal. So, like, you're looking at a low seed team, and again, teams with a history of losing. A-Rod is the owner. Like, you want picks on teams that are bad, and Utah absolutely fleeced. Like, and the same thing, I would take the Hornets picks, I would take the Wizards picks, I take the Knicks picks, I would take any team that has a history of losing. I'll take all their picks.
I think the Hornets picks are probably one of the most valuable in my opinion, just because like we have especially with the Miles Bridges stuff and everything.
Miles Bridges, LaMelo Ball's gonna leave. Like, it's gonna be the whole thing.
It's gonna be very. He's not gonna stay at all. He wants his brand and everything, and like he doesn't want to be playing on his losing team like that.
Come to the Knicks. We'll flip Mitchell for Ball in 2 years.
I'm surprised. I'm honestly kind of surprised at when he was getting drafted that the Knicks didn't trade up for him. I'm like, I would have. At the time, I was like, you can take RJ, you could take the pick that we had at the time, which was Obi Toppin. Like, I take all that stuff. Give me LaMelo. Wasn't
that the year that they could have had
Halliburton?
Halliburton.
Yeah. Hey, a lot of teams passed on Halliburton.
Which I don't want to hear it. Halliburton was the pick, so was Donovan Mitchell.
Well, Donovan Mitchell, yeah. I mean, that's all Phil Jackson, man. He wanted a triangle guy. Big mistake. The Kevin Knox thing was pretty bad too, but that was
inexcusable.
That was that was a thing of there's the reports of Kevin Knox actually went one-on-one with Mikal Bridges and Miles Bridges and smoked them in a tryout, and
there you go. Then I should be the number 1 pick.
Did not work out. But that's the thing. They're debating between those 3 guys. Hey, they played against each other.
There was one of the who was on the Wizards. He was 18 years old. He was on the Wizards. Was it Gerald Wallace? I forget. He beat Michael Jordan 1-on-1 or something. Maybe he didn't beat him, but played him really tough. Yeah, you should have drafted him number 1. Best player ever then. Second best player. He almost beat Jordan in 1-on-1 when he was 43.
Yeah, that's where I definitely at this point, at least with draft, I'm definitely not a huge. Oh, look at the ceiling of this 18-year-old kid. Like, nah, I don't care about that. What can you do right now? Because that's the thing of like Mikal Bridges of like he falls a little bit further because he was an older guy. So Richter, you talked about the Clippers. You think they're gonna make At least I break down. What do you think of their offseason? Because this is
Well, they can't really do a whole lot because their team's already pretty much set. I really like Man though. I think he's taken a step forward this year. I'm not a huge Reggie Jackson fan, but I mean he can light it. He could score when you need someone to score. I just think that Kawhi's had like a lot of time to get it figured out. Paul George has played really well. I think they re-signed Zubac, right? So,
they did.
so like like he's a solid big. I'll take if I were to like make a preseason pick. Like I'm not taking the Warriors. I'm not taking the Celtics. Like you look at who's the favorites. Like let me look at like who's the favorites to win it right now. You got. I know the Celtics were favored, which I thought was insanity. So it's Celtics, Bucks, Warriors, Clippers, Suns, Nets are 12-1 now. So, okay, so there you go. The sports books telling you they're running it back.
For sure.
That's what they're telling you. So I mean, if you're really like looking to make a pick, Clippers, Bucks finals, Clippers win, or maybe the Bucks. Clippers or Bucks. That's it. No one else. There's really not that many other contenders if you really look at it. Maybe Memphis is like a deep pick.
You talked about like Reggie Jackson. Do you think Reggie Jackson starts or John Wall starts?
Oh no, John Wall's got to come off the bench.
Come off the bench.
There's no way you can throw him.
I'm thinking he's gonna say he's gonna start. When you say like
he's gonna play,
I think he's gonna. I think he's already talking about like him starting. Of the conversations of, oh, I'm the third, or you're gonna have your third best defender guarding me, like kind of thing. Meanwhile, he's talking about he's playing with Kawhi and Paul George at the same time, probably starting. Like,
you think that's a wink agreement when he signed?
I will say. I would say I know he just recently did an interview with ESPN, and he was talking about putting aside some of his ego for this. So I think if they come to him saying
that, honestly,
shout out to him.
Shout out to him being the bigger man. How old is he?
If he 30, I believe.
Really, just 30?
30 or 31.
30.
Yeah, it feels like a lifetime, right?
30 going on 50.
He's 31.
31 going on 55.
In September, he turns 32.
Man, with those injuries,
he's like Cowboy Cerrone. Cowboy Cerrone's like 35, and the UFC he's like 65.
So all right, that's the Clippers. You kind of laughed at the Celtics thing. Like, what do you think about the Celtics moves picking up Malcolm Brogdon? What do you think about that?
I would have rathered Herter.
Okay.
He was available. They had a trade exception to fit him in. Same package. I don't love Gallo. I think Gallo's just like he'll maybe hit a couple shots off the bench in the playoffs, but like how much is he really going to play? Brogdon's all right. He can defend if he plays. If he's healthy, he can defend a little bit, can pass a little bit, can defend a little bit. But Celtics, no. Like they're the favorites right now. It's one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. Like
with Brogdon coming off the bench, though.
Yeah,
I don't like that.
Brogdon's fine. I don't think he does a whole lot for them. They were missing like they're a scorer away, and I just don't feel like they ever got him. Even if they got Herter, I'm still not a huge fan. But like they're a scorer away. If they could have gotten John Wall, that would have been perfect. Like go get John Wall.
You think John Wall is better than Malcolm Brogdon?
Not that, but for the fit. Brogdon isn't as much of a scorer. They need a guy who can just come in and score. Because Tatum.
All right, perfect then.
What was that?
I think it's time that he hears my rumor, or not my rumor, or my mock trade that I thrown in the pod previously. Is I say that if Jazz are saying bet we're rebuilding on everything, you send Mike Conley over to the Celtics. What do you think about that?
Old, and also you have to make the money work. You have to make the money work, and that's going to be a pain in the butt. Unless their trade exception didn't expire. If their trade exception expired, then they can't do it. He's too old. They need a scorer. He's not even a scorer. He's like nothing now. He's so bad. He's so old. He's so old, yo. Oh my God. They need someone like, dude. They need if they could get quickly from the Knicks. If they held on to that pick and traded 3 first-round picks to the Knicks for quickly, I'm in.
I don't think, or I think the Knicks value quickly, even though
3 first-round picks.
I think they value him more, not as even just like the player yet, but more just like the player and how he fits with the rest of the young kids that they have. Because you have that relationship with Obi Toppin, and then even like they talked about like Mitchell Robinson coming. Yeah. Well, yeah, the guy that doesn't play. You got to trade.
Who doesn't play? All right, well, that's good. He's got a good relationship with the bench players.
And then no, but like even like Mitchell Robinson and all of them, like I think they bet on him more as a person versus like the player as of now.
If I got offered 3 first-round picks for quickly, I'm probably taking it.
Probably taking it. That's the thing of even with like, it's hard with the Donovan Mitchell situation because it's like, oh, is Emmanuel quickly the guy that's stopping you from getting Donovan Mitchell? Like, I think you have to trade him. Like, you don't.
You're not getting Toppin in quickly. I'm not as bullish on Mitchell. He doesn't play defense at all.
Doesn't, yeah. But
and you're gonna have to fire your coach at like this year. So you know that you're gonna have to blow your team if you get him. 6 first-round picks and you want 2 very good young players. Toppin's gonna be good, and so is Grimes. And I think that they know that, and I think that we know that.
Yeah.
That's it. If you want more than that, go find another trade. Go find somebody else. Go find somebody else where Donovan Mitchell's going to be happy and ask for a trade immediately.
Well, that's the thing too of like the whole as of now, what it seems like what the Jazz want are first round picks. Like they want picks. They don't. They want some young players and all that. And the Knicks can give a lot of first round picks, and you have your choice. You want players, you want picks.
You know what's not good is that the Knicks have the Wizards pick in like 3 years.
Yeah.
And Wizards just gave Bradley Beal $50 million a year.
It's true.
The Wizards just gave Bradley Beal $50 million a year, and a no trade clause. Yeah. That pick, it's protected. I think top 10.
I was gonna say it's protected.
I don't know what happens the next year. I don't know what happens the next year, the year after, the year after.
Yeah.
But that's gonna be a top 10 pick for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Just food for thought. I'm just throwing things out there.
So you mentioned Kevin Huerter. The Kings made a lot of pretty big moves, and then their draft pick and Keegan Murray is actually surprised, or not surprisingly, but people gave us a flag. Even I gave us a flag.
Shutting up the doubters.
Yeah, shutting up the doubters. What do you think about the Kings? Do they make the playoffs?
Best case is play-in. Best case. Everything probably not. Probably not. No, they're pretty bad. Again, that's another team. I'll take your picks. If you want to go in and make the playoffs, by all means, go ahead, and I'll just give you your picks. That's it.
I feel like I have a little bit more faith in the Kings organization now, mainly just because of it's a new leadership. I mean, I don't know if it's a new owner or whatever, but like they've been making some smart moves, and I mean, is the Halliburton stuff smart? It's to be determined, but they definitely been making some smart moves. Hey, they made or at least as of now, the Keegan Murray stuff is looking pretty solid. See how it turns out. I'm trying to think. Oh, so now to some rumor stuff of Jeff talked a little bit about Utah blowing it up. If they trade Donovan Mitchell, it's for sure they're trading a lot of these other guys they got. There was a rumor from Jake Fisher about like Patrick Beverly. If he's getting traded, there's already talks about Lakers and Heat being interested. We saw Patrick Beverly on ESPN talking about how the Heat should get Patrick Beverly. I think he talking about himself in third person. What do you think about stuff like that?
Yeah, I saw that. I think he said it on First Take, right?
Yeah.
Sure. That's like a sure situation. That doesn't really do anything for the Heat. You know what I mean? At least in my opinion. It just is what it is for the Heat. If I were the Heat, I'd probably try to get Mitchell, but I don't even know if I want Tyler Hero if I'm Utah. Those picks aren't worth anything. The Heat
Yeah.
are always good. The Heat have
That's true.
always been good, and they're never not going to be good. So those picks are worthless. Why would I want to do that if I'm Utah? Also, Pat Riley and Danny Ainge hate each other. I don't know if you guys knew that. But they hate each other. So good luck. You're gonna the premium. It's not happening. You give me Bam Adebayo. Like, go away.
Well, yeah,
So-
it's interesting with that of like the Miami Heat because you hear Tyler Hero, you hear Duncan Robinson, who they've been trying to like get rid of after they signed them to that giant contract and everything.
Didn't play
Like,
him all year. They gave Max Strus his minutes.
exactly. Like, didn't play him, gave him this giant contract. He didn't really play that well when he was playing. And they're like, yeah, here's this asset here, Duncan Robinson. And then you have Tyler Hero and the picks. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I had one rumor that was on the Simmons podcast. He got some. So he was like talking about how the Lakers situation is a little bit combustible, right? Like those picks. LeBron's a free agent after this year, and he wants Kyrie. He wants it to happen. Simmons said, and I agree with him. The trade, the Irving trade to the Nets to the Lakers is not happening. Because if it were to happen, you'd have to do the Lakers trading Westbrook to the Nets. They're not taking Westbrook, and he makes $11 million more than Kyrie. They're in the luxury tax, so like that 11 is like 2x or 3x. It's like a $22 million hit, and then it's like, okay, you're gonna get one pick back, and it's like, or 2 picks max. Like, that's not worth it. Like it's just not worth it. So that's not happening. Basically, the point was Simmons said this league is heavily looking at the situation. He said that the Knicks might not trade for Mitchell now because they want Anthony Davis next year.
I don't like that.
Kentucky guy, CAA,
Yeah.
got all the ties. Good player.
Never injured guy.
Prone.
Yeah.
Injured guy.
Injured guy.
Still loves basketball. Kyrie Irving doesn't love basketball.
I thought we saw Anthony Davis was like, yeah, I haven't touched the basketball in like 4 months or whatever it was.
I'm sure that
You know what? Actually, they're kind of similar. They both love being on Twitch. They both love playing
Could they like
GTA. They both live on. Hey man, dude, you gotta look that up. Both of them on Twitch all the time now,
Hey, Ben Simmons
playing
on there, too.
GTA. Yeah. So,
Did you guys see the Twitter clip of like, oh, Anthony Davis is looking dangerous right now, and he's over there like super slow shot and everything.
So, I mean, this is what Simmons said, and like I thought it was pretty interesting. The person that he was on with gave him some pushback. Anthony Davis, he's not going anywhere, and he was like, got defensive. And then he was like, "Let me just say, I know for sure that teams are looking at the Anthony Davis situation." And then that was the rest. That was the end of the segment. And I was like, definitely heard that. He's definitely heard that teams are looking at Anthony Davis because the Lakers.
What about
LeBron leaves? AD's available.
Yep, 100%.
80 on a discount is what is that situation look like? What is 80's like salary?
He was like 10
breakdown
the first time, right? Was he worth half that?
So it's a trade. His contract's not coming up anytime soon.
No, it's a trade.
Okay. Wow.
8 first round picks probably.
It's gonna be insane. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to want to move him or to want to get him via trade.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't think it's crazy, Richter, because you're talking about the Knicks and everything. Like, if the Knicks don't get Donovan Mitchell, that's probably something there. Just because
AD's available.
Yeah,
AD's available this time next year. We're talking 80 trades.
Because if you really think about it, the Knicks, their entire game plan is really trading for a star. Like, it's very obvious they're not tanking, they're not doing any of this stuff. That's what they're doing. Though, who's available? All these guys just signed giant extensions and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Anthony Davis does kind of make sense. Do I personally love it? Not really, but I can't see it.
Mitchell or Davis? If you can get, I would pick Davis.
You'd pick Davis over Donovan Mitchell.
I would take Davis a year from now and Mitchell right now.
Really?
Yeah.
You guys ready for
Jeff is
theory
licking
time?
his chops right now. Jeff is excited.
Are you guys ready for theory time?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna bump.
Let's tie.
I'm gonna bump in like 10 minutes.
Yeah. All right, we'll wrap it up. We'll wrap it up.
So, theory time is. So you brought up the situation does not look too good for the Lakers right now, and the Lakers clearly are looking for future assets, or if they can find future assets, because they're not going to be good for the foreseeable future, right? The conversations around LeBron is he wants to have Kyrie so bad. He needs him. He could care less about a 2029 pick, right? And now you're saying AD might be on the table, which means that effectively LeBron James would either leave at the end of this following season or he would just retire, which I don't think that's in the cards, right?
No, this is assuming that LeBron leaves.
Okay. So, let's put this all together. And I think that there's a very interesting place where he could land. How about we finally see AD, Kyrie, and LeBron team up, the Brooklyn Nets, and see what happens there. How does that sound?
No, on the Lakers. Why would you do it in Brooklyn?
Because it's Brooklyn.
I'm doing it right now.
No.
It's really hard.
It's really hard to figure out. Austin Reeves is my starting 2 guard. I have Jordan Bell in my starting lineup. It's really hard. I'm not.
No, but I think
30 minutes.
I mean off of the sense that if let's say we're getting towards trade deadline, the Lakers are becoming exceedingly frustrated with the situation that they're in, and it looks like they're not going to be a playoff team. What do they do with LeBron? LeBron does not have a trade clause. I know it would be unprecedented to not go through him, but he is 38 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but when you're 38 years old, I don't care if you're the best player in the league, someone's going to say, I'm going to get the most value out of what I can in this situation because there is no you after possibly 2 years. Like, I can't make a lot of decisions on my future.
Cleveland? Go back to Cleveland?
Well, that's where I say Brooklyn becomes a very interesting situation where they ask, hey, you got that guy over there named Ben Simmons. What does he look like at that point, midway of the season?
Ben Simmons
You may ask.
No.
It feels.
I don't know why the Lakers would do that. LeBron sells a lot of jerseys.
It's definitely theories. There's definitely a lot of theories.
He's worth. I hear you. He's worth like 10x what his contract is, and his contract's
of course.
So, just for like the sellouts alone, be like, this is LeBron's last game in LA. Like literally, just say it. We know you're leaving. If they don't get Kyrie, he's leaving.
But I guess to kind of push back on you saying that is we're looking at the Lakers as like a team. The way how you're saying that, we're looking at the team more on the business side of it. And I don't think that the Lakers think in that sense 100% based off of how the Buss family has owned their time being owners of the team. It's more about what are we going to do for winning, and it's always been about basketball. It's never truly been about the money. What margins are we going to hit, right? So I wonder, when do they start thinking, does presently constituted with what we have work? Do we try to follow a new model? Because what I've said is the issue I see with the Lakers is that they are still working off of an outdated model of literally willing stuff to happen in their favor. And for a long time, it worked for them. For a long time it worked for them. But now it's not. yeah, but the competitive balance in the league has changed a lot
Amazing.
since when they were doing it, when they had like Jerry West. Jerry West literally willed Kobe Bryant to being drafted and traded to the Lakers, you know? And I could not foresee the Lakers doing something like that right now, is what I'm trying to say. So where do they finally say we have to start operating like other smart teams in the league, or do we continue to do this outdated model?
No, they have to do the outdated model for right now, at least for the next like 10 years. If I were them, I'd go get Kyrie, do the two picks, and just try. I mean, if they don't want to do it, then like you can't force the Nets. But both first round picks, Westbrook send him to OKC. Like I don't know what for, but I don't know. Like they have to figure out the trade, get Kyrie, and extend Kyrie, give him the full max. Screw yourself for the next 5 years. That contract will suck. Maybe Kyrie will play this year. Maybe he'll play next year too. But after that, probably.
I guess the last thought that I'll put into that then is based off of what I feel or what I see in the situation. I think Jeannie Buss is coming more accustomed to that idea because a lot of talk went around the Twitter post that she put about Kobe putting team first and all of that.
Yeah,
you did. You
Yeah,
see, well then. Yeah. That's a good plug right there. but you see that is a shift in her mindset because realistically, it wasn't that long ago, 10 years ago, when Chris Paul was up for grabs, no questions were asked. They just wanted him. They were going to try to go and get him. Now they're sitting and they're trying to think through trade possibilities rather than just doing it compared to that period where they brought in someone like a Dwight Howard, they brought in a Steve Nash and just did these things for the flash, thinking that this would be
fine with doing
what
things
gets
for
the
the flash.
championship.
Honestly, if I were the Lakers after this, you can bottom out. You can bottom out and not have picks. You're not gonna have picks. But bottom out, clear cap space, someone's gonna come there. Like you'll still get some free agents. Like if you have cap space, I mean, the thing is, if you give Kyrie a 5-year deal, those last 3 years, I would expect him not to play.
Well, yeah. So we'll see. Let's wrap it up. So, Richter, before we let you go, I told you before, I kind of want to get it. You kind of mentioned a little bit of your picks, but way too early. Final predictions. Who do you think makes it to the finals and wins it all?
Bucks Clippers, and it'll be a coin flip. I guess.
Clippers. I like it. You don't think Warriors repeating, bringing back a lot of
Definitely not. That was a 1-year thing.
All right. I like it. Well,
What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, Jeff, what do you got?
Who do I got for the finals?
Yeah.
It's so up in there.
Way too early.
But I guess best bet, I'm still gonna go with the Warriors. Going to the finals out of the East. And it's so sad that I'm going to say this. I got the Sixers.
No,
James
Harden, 70-year-old James Harden.
I think karma is going to be in their favor. Is going to be in their favor because he decided to be a team guy as a superstar. Currently,
he's trying to get that juju back because he's
so he'll get that shot. I think it really comes down to who becomes hottest in that series. But I guess I'm going to say is that Joel Embiid wins his first championship and he wins the Finals MVP. As of right now, is my pick.
Brian.
So I said before the whole KD stuff came out, I thought that it was going to be the Nets Warriors. Maybe I'm gonna go with Milwaukee. Milwaukee Warriors, mainly because of, you think about the Bucks if they had Chris Middleton there, they probably would have been in the championships game. They probably would have been in the finals, and they probably would have had a really good chance to win it all.
Yep.
They didn't have him, so, it was a lot of health stuff. But I think probably I'll probably give it to the Warriors, man. I think that's just the team's so good. An extra year of Clay being completely healthy in the offseason, I I think that's pretty game changer. 2, you have all these really young guys going to take a bigger step. Kuminga looks really good. Moody looks really good. You're going to have James Wiseman back. It's too many good assets.
Fair. It's fair.
Yeah. So Richter, again, thanks for coming on. It's been a lot of fun. Do you have anything you want to last thoughts and anything you want to plug?
Freaking awesome to be here, guys. I feel like you guys are rocking. This setup is beautiful. You guys are killing it. We've been friends for like ever. Brian, I think we're going almost at like we're at 5 years for sure.
Oh no, I mean, so
Easily. We're closer to a decade. I
Gotta
think
be
we are than
it's
that.
it's literally like it's close to 8 years. Close to 8 years.
Yeah, close to 8 years. That's pretty wild. Like,
Yeah.
pretty crazy. We gotta link up. Let's grab a beer. I know Jeff, you're in Miami. We'll
For sure.
next time you're home, hit me up. We'll hit
Virtual. We'll get a virtual.
Brian, let's hit a Met game.
But when we're back in Jersey, you know.
Brian, let's just hit a Met game
Let's do
and
it.
just enjoy it. Mets are getting Soto, so let's go.
All right. Breaking news. No. But Richter, really appreciate it. Yeah, this has been a good one. This has been episode 37.
For the love of the game, baby.